Hey everyone, today for another vlog. Today I want to talk about the damages of boredom. Kind of a weird topic, but it's kind of come to my attention how much of the problems in society are actually kind of related around this whole like because the void that boredom manifests into people's lives. So like in the previous one, I just talked about like how loneliness is a very apparent void that uh, creates that really seems to be the root of many people's problems, even more so than like all of the things that you could talk about, like or the climate problems or the peak oil or the general trend that problems come faster than we can solve them, which is called the meta crisis for some people. But I think another aspect of this simpler view of crises. Uh, so you have loneliness, but I think another big side of it is quite simply boredom. Uh, Put simply, most people really don't know how to use their time, even at their job. Right? Look, the reason why I started talking about this is because I'm currently watching a video which I think it makes a lot of sense to me about how the economy is complete bullshit. Right? That's something that I've been kind of thinking about a lot as well, about how a lot of jobs are bullshit. Of course, he starts with the book that a lot of people know as Bullshit Jobs by not sure who, don't remember his name, it's David something. Um, and then he goes on to say about how a huge problem for a lot of jobs is not knowing what to do with your time because there's so little to actually do, right? And I think that's actually where the stress comes from. Um, for a lot of those jobs, those bullshit jobs where nothing really happens, is that the stress really comes from this sensation that you're really wasting your life. It really felt sense that you're wasting your life, right? Because I don't even think it's guilt, right? I think it's just a sense that you could be doing so much better with your life. As in, I don't think it's guilt that you're like leeching or something. I think it's just, yeah, again, sense of wasting your life. Because I've absolutely experienced this in my job. Like, my job requires me to do very little. I think in a week I do at most like no joke. I don't think I need to do more than 5 hours of actual work. Sometimes it's like 10 when it's like a really big week. Often, and because it's like five per week, right? That means that I can literally have days where I literally do nothing, like genuinely nothing. I have many ways to occupy myself because it's an office job, so you're in front of a computer. So obviously I can. What I do is like I put like it's kind of funny. I put like things I want to read on overleaf, like chapters of things I want to read, and I just do that. Like I pretend to work like I'm on overleaf, but I'm just reading things and writing notes and what. So like and like maintaining my notes and such. That's mainly what I do at my job. It's just reading. Um, my life would be a lot better if I didn't have that job, right? Because I would actually be free to use my time. I would be uh, not being in a room all day, right? I would have more time to like go for walks and such. For sure, my life would be a lot better with my job, but that's how the world is. It gives me the money. I will eventually leave that job, of course. I don't plan to stay forever. Again, it's a complete waste of life to. I feel like it's just that it gives me money. I don't learn anything important. None of the people that are interesting. The job doesn't teach me anything. There's nothing interesting about the job. It's just about the money. And I think the stress is like one aspect we can tell that it can be hard to identify the stress, but like I genuinely had no idea why I was stressed at my job because again there was so little to do. But I think my explanation makes a lot of sense to me. I think in general another symptom of like you not really not liking your job and like simply like how well you sleep, right? So a lot of people uh, they don't sleep well. It's quite, that's not, there's nothing like debatable about that. They simply don't sleep well. Um, and they try to look for like, a biological cause or like, lack of exercise and all that. And for sure, a lot of people are chronically under-exercised. But it's worth looking at the reason why people don't exercise is because they have this entire like 8 hour slots that doesn't allow them to exercise. Right? So like in many ways it circles back again to the job. But I think a huge reason why people don't sleep well is because they know deep down that they're wasting their life with their job, and that sleep is like basically the only time in the day where they cannot bullshit themselves. Our society is so full of bullshit that it's really hard to get out of it. Jobs and the environment and the conversations, they're all bullshit, a lot of gossip. Then even like entertainment now, it's, I guess in general it's called media, but like at this point, it feels like media is this combination of like what is called entertainment, which is more like apathy really, and propaganda. I think that's really what most media are. It consists of apathy plus propaganda, but it calls itself entertainment, but it's a huge psyop to call it that. And I think a lot of people's lives basically consist in basically just bullshitting themselves and all the people around them that they're not wasting their life when they know damn well that's the case. And that's why they don't sleep well, in my opinion. Um, I'm for sure projecting a lot here because that's how I feel right now. But I do not think it's completely inaccurate. I think people know that they're wasting their lives, but they do not want to admit themselves because change is hard and it's confusing. I think it's mostly confusing. I don't think change is necessarily hard, but I think it requires the decision to be different and to do things you're not familiar with, which is confusing, right? You don't know what you could do, and I think that's really a big problem nowadays that people really don't know what to do at that time. Um, this leads me to another area where you can see that. So I've talked about work so far because that's the video that prompted this video. The other area where you can see the damages of boredom, I think, is to do with like addictions and especially pornography. Again, it's instead of an area where I might be projecting a lot because I do struggle with pornography, but you know, when I was younger, it was not really that reason why I turned to it. I think actually it might have been a big reason why, but I think now the dominant, by far the most dominant reason why I turned to it is when I find that I have nothing really important to use my time on, nothing really meaningful. As sad as it is to say, right? It's kind of sad, but I think that is really the main reason why people turn to porn. It's because they don't know how to use their time again, um, and because it's the kind of thing that really stimulates uh, your your brain, your dopamine, and all that. Right? Like just looking for stimulation because you don't know what to do. I think that's a huge part of our culture, of our quote unquote entertainment culture. It's just like apathy driven turning to something to kind of fill the void, right? Like fill the stimulation. And I think that's why media is so I think it's so exaggerated in media now. Like you don't really have like normal stories at this point anymore. You don't really have like just regular people, healthy people interacting with one another. Instead, it's always like being in a messed up world because it's an echo of how people feel about the world, right? Everything must be messed up, and the relationships are all messed up, and there's no. It's all like a lot of stories just involve honestly kind of psychopathic people. Um, like the sense of growth is really like I don't know. A lot of stories they don't even have growth. They have the sense that like humanity is just messed up and we're all messed up and that's just how it always will be. Um, I think in general the trajectory of media has taken has been one of in a sense you could say it's pornography, right? Like this sense of like stimulating things as much as possible, but where it's like really really bad stuff and it makes you feel like oh it makes you feel all the disgust just in order to feel something, or like all of the all of the stuff that we associate with good, right? So like all of this pleasure and laughter and distraction and putting things like showing people having fun, having sex, being powerful and all that. um yeah, really away from a pace of like more fulfilling life and a slower life and a more just interacting with the people that are important for you, by just being there for them. That doesn't really seem the things that are the represented values in a lot of those stories, if they even have values, right? Like a lot of stories are very nihilistic as well, in the sense of like not having any compass or like having any sense of like higher living, you could say, higher being. It's pretty sad. Yeah, I think it's pretty crazy, like how much people don't know how to use that time. Right? Like jobs mostly empty, honestly. I mean, I would say my job is pretty much mostly bullshit. It's not purely bullshit because there is actually programming, but like it's all of the difficulty is purely bureaucratic. I'm working with awful programs. Just yeah, 99% of the job is bureaucratic. There is nothing else. Just I don't think I had ever to think within my job, like to like actually think, right? Like it's really sad. Um, and when you take this entire situation of like not not knowing how to spend your time plus turning to like all of this like excitement to run away from this this lack of meaningful spending of your time. What you have are people who are really I'm not really sure what to say. Like people are first of all very apathetic. Right? I mean that's kind of the reason why people turn to stimulation in the first place is all of this apathy. But I think what you have are people who are just really not able to deal with life in general. But all they do is distract themselves from the fact that they um, don't like their life, and so as a result, they don't really like shop well in any other discipline. Right? They don't shop as themselves and as a better human being in relationships either. And the problem just keeps getting deferred and deferred, and so but you have essentially people who are running away from themselves, and as a result, it kind of like trickles down into everything else. Um, and I can very much see that in my life right now, right? Like the sense that I'm just like kind of running away from myself and not doing the things I could be doing. I'm not sure. Like I think the whole thing, the whole things I've said about burnout, like, it's kind of bullshit because right now I just spent like 40 minutes I think drawing, and I really was pretty interested in that. Like, I found that really uh, I'm not sure. I found that really nice. I think the big reason is that when I draw with reference, I find it really nice. But the problem is that when I've been doing for like 4 years now, drawing with reference, like just draw or taking a photo and like drawing it, that I kind of find it dull. So maybe I could like sort of alter it. But every time I try to do without reference, it's just such an awful experience that I think it makes me like disgusted from art. So I think yeah, maybe the whole thing about me being burned out is complete bullshit. Not really surprising, but we tend to deceive ourselves very easily in order to not do things that are a bit challenging. But yeah, boredom is a huge, huge problem in our current society. I didn't expect that this would be such a big problem in my life. You know, because when I think of like the things that I would consider a problem in my life, I would think of things such as trauma first of all, or propaganda as a second one, but the societal program that uh, you know implants you with a lot of ideas of how you should live and what you should believe in, which is still a problem. Where the unconscious is really powerful, which is why it works, which is why advertisements and such work, and so that's why media can communicate ideas and such. But yeah, honestly, like, and I guess the third one would be like loneliness, right, and all that. So like the three ones I was thinking of, like trauma, propaganda, and loneliness. Those are definitely huge problems, right? Especially loneliness. But honestly, like I've come to see that boredom is a huge, huge one that people really don't know how to deal with. And in many ways, it's far worse than the other three because because the other three, it's like when you can see them, they become a lot less powerful, right? Like I guess not loneliness necessarily, but like in the sense that if you can deal with boredom, the other three are not really, they don't really have a grip on you as much. Especially like propaganda is like, if you know how to spend your time deliberately, then you're probably not going to be spending time in like social media or like watching media or like, watching a lot of like those really low bar movies, right? You'd probably just do it on what you want to do. And same thing with loneliness, where you would probably not feel the loneliness, or you'd probably find a way to like use your activity to connect with other people as well. And yeah, but like if you don't have the ability to direct your time, it feels like the other three problems become really bad, and boredom itself is becomes this really like festering wound that just becomes worse, and that you kind of like patch up with like whatever you can find. So yeah, um, it's a rather it's a rather dangerous thing, honestly. Um, I think it's deeper than boredom. I'd call that apathy, really. Um, Boredom is not necessarily bad, I would say, if you know how to sit with it. But I think it's really like this apathy, like this entire like time that you don't know how to fill with. And the reason why people don't know how to fill the time is because obviously it is obvious, but it is worth stating that people used to spend a lot of time on survival, right, and survival activities. Um, so not necessarily directly hunting, but like taking care of the village life and preparing the food and doing all the things that are necessary to, if you think of like primitive life, there's a saying that like people only used to work like, I don't know, 30 hours a week or something. I think this is a weird statistic to give because it it really depends on what you mean by work. Like if you spend like 30 hours hunting and you spend like 30 hours hunting and gathering, let's say, and you spend like 20 hours preparing the food, because it is worth remembering that when you only have like stone age tools, cracking a nut is not an easy thing to do. This might not seem like a big deal, but it's actually kind of a huge deal. Cracking a nut open and eating it takes a pretty decent amount of time, considering how little nutrition it gives, right? So like, especially because the nuts in uh, that they were usually found like in the primitive age, they were not like the nice nuts we have now. Like they, I'm not sure if they significantly changed, but like there was something with that. At least the ones that I've learned about that they used to hunt together, rather, they were really not nice to work with. Like they were really hard, not a whole lot of edible stuff in it, and so like the yeah the processing the process of like getting the food out of it it's actually a pretty significant part of your day. But like things like that would not really be considered work if you only look at hunting and gathering, but they're really significant. But the thing is, like, even though it takes a lot of time, at least it's directly meaningful in the sense that it's literally how you survive. Right? Like that's literally how you uh, stay alive. But in the modern world, there's basically none of that. Like the economy is largely a social game, and like I don't think that's a very controversial statement. It's basically purely social, and so like how what you do has very little to do often with like how good you are, or like it's not true, but like it's more in the sense of like becoming better doesn't really provide many advantages in a local sense. Like maybe if you become really good at something, um, on the side, let's say, you could start making money out of it, but on a local sense, you wouldn't really be rewarded for being good at that other thing. On a local sense, you just get rewarded for playing social games better, and even then, you don't really get rewarded very well because like companies they're not really keen on having people get promotions, right? Because obviously, the number of people that can have a position upper on the upper levels gets smaller and smaller. So yeah. So basically, I think I'm just want to conclude because I'm getting close to the 20-minute mark. Um, Boredom is a huge deal, right? Like how you deal with it is a huge deal, and this would be a huge thing that I would say to my younger self. Probably one of the main things. Because I think when I was younger, I had no idea how bullshit the economy was. I really had no idea. Like, I think there was no way for me to really know unless I had an honest conversation with someone else. The problem is that the world is so bullshit, just as the jobs are, that honest conversations are very rare. So that's just how it is. But if I was younger, if I was talking to my younger self, I would definitely uh, try to tell him that. But yeah, thank you for listening. I don't have much else to say, but yeah, thank you for listening, and then see you next time.